Hello, my name is Maddie Bites, and this definitely isn't the third time I've tried recording this video. Alright, so recently I finished a graphic novel. I have been working on this since the very beginning of the year. I'm just here to tell you the don'ts, not even the do's, just the don'ts of writing a graphic novel or a comic book. Specifically things that I learned that I hadn't seen on YouTube. Alright, so sit back, grab a popcorn, open up a fresh cold Dr. Pepper, and I will just get right into the biggest mistakes I made while writing my own comic. Alright, so it really comes down to one big thing, and that is a small time limit I set for myself. Originally, I was planning on having my comic finished at the end of November, which gave myself around 11 months to work on this project, which at the time seemed like no big deal at all. It was completely doable. I wouldn't be overwhelmed. I could balance everything I wanted to. I could post the weekly updates on Webtoon, and it gave me time to flush out the characters and all of the side characters and be able to draw the backgrounds and add as many pages as I wanted to. This all changed when me and Jonah realized we wanted to do Salt Lake FanX with our brother-in-law and our friend. And basically, this meant that my time limit of 11 months would be cut down to about 9. And at this time, it was already March when we decided to do this, which I don't recommend. I don't recommend. I'm, trying to get this video and get all my gooses in a row right before the FanX event that we're doing. We ended up changing our direction about 3 months into me working on this comic, and so basically this all meant that I had a significantly smaller time limit, and this was, in my opinion, one of my biggest downfalls of my entire graphic novel. Because of this small time limit, I was very stressed out because I was doing freelance art on the side. I was also working with dogs. Essentially, I was working around 3 part-time jobs at the time, which now I'm doing a lot better. But I didn't have a lot of time to really give myself. I couldn't really give myself a moment of peace because if I stopped with the momentum I had, my graphic novel would not have been complete. And this just meant my original goal of nearly a year to work on this graphic novel was cut down to 7 months. Honestly, really 6 months if you think about it, because I didn't start it until late January and I finished it like early or mid-July, So it really wasn't too much time I was giving myself because I needed to finish it before this deadline so I could have it in printer, so I could have it at our booth. And so this was causing a lot of stress. I had a 2-month spur at the very end of the writing process where I didn't have a day off in those entire 2 months. It was a lot to handle for just 2 months. It sounds very impressive. I'm not going to lie. I do like bragging. I do like the bragging rights, but I don't think it was really worth it in the end. The bragging rights that kind of don't outweigh the stress and me having to work, super long days because I was getting up at 6 to go to the dog factory and then I'd come home around 12 or 1 and maybe I'd take a shower, eat some food, but I would most of the time just come to my desk and work probably until Jonah got home around 5, and then he would sit at my desk with me and I would keep drawing. I'm just saying, it didn't really pan out in the end. Like, yes, I have phenomenal bragging rights, but it doesn't outweigh me having to have worked my tail off for 2 months. It wasn't worth it. And another thing to go along with that short time limit, there's a couple of points I want to touch on with this. I had to cut out about 6 to 7 chapters, which in the end would probably amount to 20 to 30 pages from my entire comic. To me, it really shows. Basically, the process with this graphic novel was I had started it in late January. It was only going to be a one-off thing, a couple of panels talking about something I was going through at the time, and then I fell in love with the process of doing it, and I just kept going, and I had 3 chapters before I started posting to Webtoon, and then I continued to build on that momentum, and then by March I had already been posting, and I'd had really good groundwork laid out. I'd had characters introduced. I'd had different places that the scenes were going to take place in, and the issue was I just didn't have the time to put all of this in. I really hope I'm not peeking, and if I am, I'm sorry. I didn't have the time to put in the detail and put in the characters and these interactions that I desperately wanted in there. I wanted it to be a better story than it was. I'm coming off like I'm, angry at it, like I don't like it. I love it. It's great. I just wish I had given myself more time. I wish I had more time to do these things. But in the end, because I had such a small time limit I had given myself, I had to cut out characters I was going to add in. I had to cut out these interactions that would have just helped build upon the story just a little bit more. Another thing with this small time limit is I didn't really have any time for myself. I didn't have time to go on fun dates with Jonah. I didn't have time to hang out with my friends, and I barely had time for my pets, which the more I look back, the more I do regret giving myself this time limit, because in May, Elvis unfortunately passed away. And this was really difficult on me at the time because I had these looming deadlines that I needed to finish, and I couldn't give myself proper time to grieve my dog, and it sucks. I had known it was coming for about a month or so, and every week I would take him out, but looking back, I just wish I had done more. All I'm saying is you just gotta give yourself a little bit of time for the more important things in your life, because things do happen. And also, one of the big things that happened towards the end of me writing the comic is I started to have almost unbearable wrist pain. I've had a broken arm in my left hand, and that was starting to become an issue. But it was fine because that was my left hand, and I don't draw with my left hand, I draw with my right hand, and I started to have really unbearable, issues with my hand, like the part around my thumb base would go numb. It wasn't great to draw with, and because I do have a heavy hand when I do art, 7 months of drawing non-stop is going to do that to you, unfortunately. So I do recommend giving yourself just a little bit more time. It doesn't have to be an entire year, but it can be just like a month, a day, a couple of hours. Just give yourself a little bit of time. Give yourself time to heal, really, because if you damage your body, it's fine when you're young, but when you get older, it's not going to be repairable. And so you just gotta take some things into consideration. All right, I'm gonna stop being a downer because that was a bit much, don't you think? The second thing I want to touch on is not having a set style. I didn't realize this was such a big issue with my art. It was insanely time consuming, and there's just some pages that didn't turn out well. And I do have a very good art style, but what had happened was when I had written the first chapter, before I decided I wanted to make an entire book out of this story, I had just wanted to do a few pages. I wanted to get all of the art done. I wanted it to look beautiful. I wanted it to have feeling. I wanted it to be spicy. And so I did things that I have never done in my art before. I added little white lines for like flyaway hairs, and I added like shininess to different body parts, like the cheeks or the chin. And this was great for a first chapter, but it's not great for a 131-page book. Oh my gosh, if I could go back in time and just be like, stop! Don't do it! It's not worth it! I would have changed my art style had I known it was going to be a longer, more in-depth project, because in the end it was time-consuming, and I found myself getting bogged down trying to make all of the pages and all of the drawings look similar. And basically it came down to me just spending a lot of time trying to draw every hair on the head like I had in the first chapter, or me trying to color match, because one thing I didn't do was set a in-stone color palette for the characters and what they will and will not look like. I didn't have any of that. I was just eye-dropping the colors, color matching, and that was it. I recommend having a set color palette, having a set art style, because this will be immensely time-saving. I ended up having to skimp on some things to make the characters look like they had in previous chapters. Most of these things wouldn't get noticed by an everyday reader, but it would make your project go by so much faster than it has. So overall, I am very, very proud of the work I have done. This is the biggest project I have ever taken on by myself, and yes, I am very happy with the turnout, and I'm happy with the effort that I put into it. I wish circumstances would have been a little bit different, but overall, I am immensely proud and happy of what I have created. If I'd have known these things, and going into my next project, I will do these things to save on time. If I'd have known these things, my project would have gone by a lot smoother. Maybe not necessarily faster, but definitely a lot smoother, and it would have been a lot less stressful on my mind and my body. Basically, the changes I would have made are not giving myself this short deadline and setting an art style, because really when it comes down to it, you gotta draw fast. Gotta go fast. But yeah, thank you all so much for sticking around, even though I haven't been here for months. If you want to stick around, press that subscribe button. Anyways, bye. I love you. Wait.